Aliens threw a human girl to a monster, then she tamed it before their eyes. Asterisk. The alien court was full of noise. Loud laughter echoed from every corner. Strange creatures with shiny skin and glowing robes filled the tall crystal balconies. They weren't here to talk. They came for entertainment. At the center of the grand hall stood a round pit. Inside it, a small human girl stood alone. Her name was Alaya. She wore a torn shirt. Her face was dirty, and her hands were tied with metal ropes. Dust covered her bare feet. Her body was shaking, but her eyes stayed calm. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. A fat alien noble with a long neck and for glowing eyes leaned forward and pointed at her. "Is this the one?" he asked. Another alien laughed. "Yes, a human. Just a child. This will be quick." The high priest of the court raised a staff and struck the floor. The sound silenced the crowd. He spoke in a deep voice. "Let the punishment begin. Feed the girl to the pit beast." Alaya closed her eyes. She didn't scream. The nobles waited for the fear to start, but Alaya just stood still. Suddenly, a heavy gate at the far end of the pit creaked open. The sound was like metal screaming. From the darkness behind the gate, something growled. The air turned cold. The crowd leaned forward. They knew what was coming. The pit beast. A creature from another world. A monster raised in pain and rage. Many had watched it tear victims apart. Alaya slowly opened her eyes. Her voice was soft. "I'm not alone," she whispered. The shadows moved. Out came the pit beast. It was huge, 10 feet tall, with dark green skin like armor. Its eyes glowed yellow. Long claws clicked against the stone floor. Its mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth. The crowd cheered. "Eat her. Tear her apart." Someone shouted. The beast stepped closer. One step, then two. Its growl filled the pit like thunder. Alaya didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the creature. The beast raised its head. It sniffed the air. Something changed. The beast stopped. It tilted its head and stared at Alaya. Then, slowly, it lowered its body. The monster bowed. Silence. The court froze. Nobles looked at one another in shock. "What is it doing?" A voice whispered. "Why isn't it attacking?" Another said. Alaya took a small step forward. Her chains dragged on the floor, but she didn't care. She reached out her hand. Slowly, gently. The beast didn't move. Then, it took one step forward and leaned its head toward her hand. Alaya's fingers touched its face. The beast let out a soft sound, not a growl, but almost like a purr. Alaya looked up at the alien court. Her voice was clear now. "He remembers me," she said. The nobles were stunned. "How?" Someone shouted. "That's not possible," cried another. "The pit beast doesn't obey anyone." But it did. It obeyed Alaya. The guards near the edge of the pit looked at each other, unsure if they should act. The beast had never shown this behavior before. It was a killer, but now it looked like a friend. Alaya walked around the beast and placed her hand on its shoulder. The beast turned and stood beside her. Like a soldier waiting for orders. She whispered something to it. The beast listened. One of the nobles slammed the balcony railing. "This is a trick," he shouted. "Kill her, kill them both." The guards raised their weapons. The beast growled again, louder this time. The walls shook. The guards froze. Alaya looked up. Her eyes burned with something new, not fear, but strength. "You thought I was weak," she said. "You thought you could break me." But he remembers who saved him. He remembers what kindness feels like. The court was no longer laughing. For the first time in years, the pit beast refused to kill. For the first time, a human stood in the center of the pit, and the monster bowed to her. The hall remained silent long after the guards lowered their weapons. No one spoke. No one dared. Alaya stood beside the beast, her chains still dragging on the stone floor. The monster didn't move unless she moved. It was like a shadow, her guardian. The high priest stepped back in fear. "This is not natural," he whispered. "No human has ever controlled the pit beast. What magic is this?" But it wasn't magic, it was memory. And pain. Alaya looked up at the confused alien nobles and said only one word. "Let me show you." She turned and gently placed her palm against the beast's chest. Its eyes flickered, then glowed brighter. A hum filled the chamber. Suddenly, The beast projected an image, not with words, but with light and feeling. Everyone saw it. Floating above them, like a memory made of mist, a younger Alaya, maybe 8 years old, walking through a thick alien forest. Her face was scratched. Her leg was bleeding. She had been lost for days. Then, a cry. A baby creature, small, wounded, left behind. It had a broken leg. Its body shook with fear. That baby was the pit beast. Alaya didn't run. She sat down, slow and careful. She shared her last food with it. She used her shirt to wrap its wound, and she sang, a soft human song, the kind sung to children. I'm not here to hurt you. The memory Alaya had whispered, you're not alone. Back in the arena, the real Alaya watched the nobles' faces. Some looked ashamed, others angry, but most surprised. The image shifted again. The aliens had captured the young beast. They locked it in cages. They shocked it, trained it to kill, day after day. They made it forget everything, even its own name. But the beast remembered one thing. Her voice, her kindness. The image vanished. The chamber returned to silence. Alaya took a deep breath. She pointed to the monster. He didn't become a beast on his own. You made him this way. The nobles stirred. One of them, a female alien, with silver eyes, spoke quietly. If this is true, then we owe you both a debt. But not all agreed. A warrior stepped forward. His armor shone like black glass. This is weakness, he growled. That thing has killed hundreds, and now, you bring us stories. He raised his weapon. I'll end this lie myself. Before anyone could blink, he jumped into the pit. The crowd gasped. The warrior ran toward Alaya, his blade ready. The beast roared, louder than ever before. Its tail swung like lightning. The warrior flew across the arena and hit the wall hard. He didn't move. Now no one dared speak. Alaya looked up again, calm as ever. He waited for me, she said. In that cage, in the dark, he waited. Because I gave him hope. The beast stood tall beside her. Then, slowly it knelt, not just in loyalty, but in trust. The crowd saw it clearly now. This wasn't a monster and a prisoner. This was a bond, one stronger than chains, stronger than fear, and maybe is strong enough to start something new. The moment the warrior's body hit the wall, a deep silence filled the grand arena. The pit beast stood between Alaya and danger, chest rising, claws tense. Alaya didn't speak. She didn't need to. But in the balconies above, panic was already spreading. Guards scrambled. Alarms began to buzz, a deep red light flashing over the smooth glass walls. One noble shouted, seal the exits, kill them. Before they reached the surface, Alaya turned. Her eyes searched the pit walls, high, smooth. No ladder, no stair. They were trapped. But the beast growled softly and nudged her arm. It looked toward the far side, a half-hidden tunnel, dark and narrow, barely big enough for them both. Alaya nodded. Let's go. The beast lowered its back. She climbed without hesitation. Then together, one girl and one creature, they charged into the shadows. The tunnel was hot and narrow. Pipes hissed, steam burned her skin, and the walls were wet. Behind them, alien guards followed, footsteps echoing like drums, faster. Alaya whispered. Suddenly, they entered a chamber. It was not empty. Cages lined the walls, filled with alien beasts, prisoners, creatures forgotten by the court. Some growled, some cried, some simply stared with dead eyes. Alaya's heart twisted. No, not again. She jumped off the beast and ran to the nearest cage, a young, wounded creature with wings too small for flight stared at her. She knelt. You don't deserve this. The beast used its claws. One strike, and the cage door shattered. Alaya looked up at it. Help me set them free. The beast growled in agreement. They moved fast, cage after cage, breaking locks, freeing every lost creature. The guards entered too late. Dozens of freed beasts stood between them and Alaya. Some were scared, others ready to fight. A voice crackled through the intercom, shut down the lower levels. Now sparks flew. Doors slammed. Alaya knew what was happening. They were sealing the tunnels, burying the truth. She looked at the others, bruised, broken, but free. We can't stay here, she said. If we do, they win. One creature, with 6 glowing eyes, stepped forward. "There's an old vent shaft," it said. "It leads to the upper caverns, but it's steep and dangerous. We don't have a choice." Alaya replied. They ran. Together, Alaya, the pit beast, and the freed creatures. The tunnel shook. Behind them, metal collapsed. Steam burst from the walls. A flying drone shot at them from above. The beast leapt and pulled it down with its teeth. Alaya didn't stop. She climbed the narrow shaft, hands burning on the rungs. One by one, the others followed. When she reached the top, she pushed open a steel cover and saw it. The sky, not Earth's sky, but the alien sky, filled with blue moons and strange stars. It was still better than the darkness below. She pulled herself out, then turned back. The beast followed, then the others, together. They stepped into the light, dirty, bloody, but alive. Alaya looked at the strange world ahead. Alien towers, floating platforms, glowing forests. She knew this was not the end. It was just the beginning. But for now, she whispered one word to the wind: free. Wind howled across the alien sky. Alaya stood at the edge of a broken platform, looking out at a world unlike any she'd known. Massive stone bridges floated in the air, like islands drifting in a sea of clouds. Thin wires and energy ropes connected them. Below was only mist and death. The pit beast stood behind her, muscles tight, tail twitching. The other freed creatures, some with wings, some with many legs, formed a circle around them. They were all breathing hard. They had made it out of the underground, but now they were hunted. Suddenly, a sound tore through the sky, a deep mechanical screech from behind the floating cliffs. Sleek black airbikes emerged, alien hunters, fast, ruthless, each one armed with plasma rifles and red eyes that scanned heat. Alaya ducked. "They found us." One of the winged beasts stepped forward. "We can hold them off." "No," Alaya said quickly. "No more sacrifice. We all go together, or none of us go at all." The pit beast growled and jumped onto the next platform. A long leap across thin air. The ground cracked beneath its feet as it landed. Alaya followed. Her legs shook, but she ran and leapt, arms wide, heart pounding. She landed, rolling hard, but safe. The others followed. Behind them, lasers sliced through the mist. One beam struck a stone pillar. It exploded, the pieces falling endlessly into the clouds. "Keep moving," Alaya shouted. They jumped from rock to rock, using ropes, wings, and courage. Then, a sudden voice from above. A hunter shouted through a speaker, "You don't belong here, human. Surrender now, and we'll end it quick." Alaya stopped mid-jump. She turned and looked up at the black bike circling overhead. She was not afraid. Her voice echoed through the wind. "You've caged us long enough. You don't get to decide where we belong anymore." The hunter fired, but the pit beast roared, a pulse of sound so deep it shook the air. The hunter lost control and crashed into a floating rock. Alaya kept running, but then she saw something ahead, a broken bridge with half of it gone, a dead end. Behind them, more hunters closed in. One creature screamed, hit by a blast. Alaya turned to the others. "We can't stay here. They'll trap us." One small alien, no taller than her knee, whispered, "There's a tunnel in the rock. Old. Forgotten." Alaya didn't hesitate. "Show us." They crawled under a collapsed beam and entered a narrow cave built into the rock wall of the sky. Cavern, inside. It was cold and silent. The light from outside faded. The tunnel was tight, wet. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive. The sound of the chase grew distant. They were safe, for now. Alaya sat on a rock, breathing hard. The pit beast lay beside her, head on its paws. Even it was tired. A young creature limped toward her. "Why are you helping us?" it asked softly. "You don't owe us anything." Alaya looked at them, all of them, hurt, scared, free. Her voice cracked a little. "Because someone has to." Silence. Then the smallest of them walked up and curled beside her. A new bond was forming, not between human and beast, but between the broken, the hunted, the forgotten. Above them, the skies rumbled. The hunters were regrouping. The Empire was watching, but Alaya wasn't just running anymore. She was leading, Asterisk the tunnel twisted like a living thing, narrow, breathing. And warmed out Alaya moved carefully, her fingers brushing the damp walls. Every few steps, she looked back at the others. The creatures followed her now, not out of fear, but faith. Something had changed. The pit beast stayed close, never letting her out of sight. At last, they reached the end of the tunnel, a large stone door sealed tight with glowing alien symbols. Alaya placed her hand on the surface. To her surprise, it responded. The stone shimmered, the air grew still, and then it opened. What lay beyond wasn't a cave. It was a temple. Old, silent, full of light. Golden energy pulsed through the walls like veins. The ceiling was high and curved like a dome, covered in carvings and forgotten language. At the center stood a wide platform with an ancient device, half machine, half organic. It looked like a throne made from roots, wires, and bone. The pit beast growled low, stepping back. It recognized this place. So did Alaya, not with her mind, but with something deeper. She stepped forward slowly. When her foot touched the platform, the carvings lit up. A deep hum filled the chamber. Suddenly, visions flooded the room. Not just images, memories, shared directly into their minds. The temple once belonged to a race known only as the First Ones, builders, guardians, and peacemakers. They didn't rule, they protected. The beasts were not born for war. They were guardians of balance, trained not to kill, but to keep peace between planets. But something happened. The old world fell, the First Ones vanished, and the guardians were captured by a new empire that twisted them into weapons. The pit beast had once stood here, before it was taken, chained, and turned into something it was never meant to be. Alaya fell to her knees. The truth was too much. They broke everything, she whispered. They turned protectors into monsters. She stood up and looked around. The temple lights responded to her presence. A circular ring floated down from the ceiling, glowing. With soft blue light, it hovered near her chest. The creatures watched in silence. Alaya hesitated, then reached out. As her fingers touched it, the ring wrapped gently around her wrist. Suddenly, the entire temple pulsed. The ground vibrated. A new symbol appeared on the floor, to hands touching a beast's heart. Then a voice echoed, not through the ears, but inside her thoughts, a voice of the First Ones. If you carry kindness through fear, courage through pain, and peace through war, you are the next guardian. Alaya gasped. She looked at the others. I'm not just a survivor anymore, she said quietly. I was brought here, for a reason. The pit beast walked up beside her and bowed its head again. Not just in respect, but in recognition. Alaya wasn't just the girl who saved him. She was the chosen one, to bring balance again. Suddenly, loud sounds from the tunnel behind. The Empire had found them. Blasters charging, footsteps marching. Alaya looked down at her wrist. The ring glowed brighter. She turned to the others. We don't run this time. The pit beast roared. The guardian had awakened. The sky above the alien city turned a strange color, dark purple. Clouds formed slowly, swirling with energy. The Empire called it a storm warning. But the people knew better. Whispers were spreading. The girl from the pit still lives. The beast chose her. She entered the forbidden temple, and it opened for her. Far beneath the royal towers, in small homes and quiet streets, citizens gathered in silence. Aliens who had once feared the pit beast now spoke his name with awe. Mothers held their children close and said, "She touched a monster and it bowed." Fathers looked at old battle scars and wondered, what if everything we knew was wrong? Something was changing. In the palace, the emperor slammed his fist into the table. His golden robe shimmered with rage. She's only a child, he shouted, but they speak of her like a goddess. His advisors looked uneasy. One finally spoke. She entered the pit core. The guardian's temple accepted her. The people saw the sky change. This is prophecy. She is a threat. The emperor hissed. Then we treat her like one. Meanwhile, Alaya stood at the edge of a floating cliff. The city shimmered below her, beautiful and broken. The pit beast sat quietly beside her, its yellow eyes watching the wind. The creatures she had freed gathered around. Some sat, some stood guard, some looked up at her with hope. Alaya wasn't sure what to say. She was never trained for this, But she remembered her father's voice. Years ago on Earth, when you don't know what to say, speak the truth. She turned to them. I didn't come here to lead, she said softly. I came here because I was thrown away. She held up her wrist. The glowing ring pulsed with light. But we are not trash, not tools, not monsters. We were all something before the Empire broke us. The pit beast growled in agreement. Alaya looked each of them in the eyes. I'm not asking you to fight for me. I'm asking you to stand for yourselves. Silence. Then, the smallest creature, the winged one with broken feathers, raised its voice. We will follow you. One by one, the others stood and nodded. Some roared, some cheered. One said quietly, for the first time, I feel free elsewhere in the city. Something unexpected began to happen. A guard removed his helmet and dropped it. A cook whispered rebellion into a noble's ear. A young prince, locked in the palace, painted Alaya's face on his wall. The rebellion wasn't loud. It was quiet. It was rising. That night, Alaya and her group moved through the shadows. They didn't march with guns. They walked with purpose. Every alley they passed, more joined them. A group of builders, a group of miners, even a group of silent monks who had not spoken in years. They all stood behind the girl from Earth. And as they reached the city's heart, the main square, Alaya climbed the tallest stone and looked up. The golden palace towered in the distance. Guards began to form a wall in front of it. Alaya didn't flinch. She raised her voice. Loud and clear, you built this world on chains and silence. But you forgot one thing. Even silence remembers how to scream. The crowd erupted. The rebellion had begun, not with weapons, but with truth. The palace gates loomed ahead, tall, cold, and gold. The rebellion had reached the emperor's doorstep. Alaya stood in front of the crowd, dusty, tired, bruised, but standing tall. Beside her stood the pit beast, silent and watchful. Round them, miners, monks, former slaves, broken creatures, and even young guards who had thrown down their helmets to walk beside her. The sky cracked with thunder, but the real storm was on the ground. Then the gates opened. The emperor stepped out, surrounded by elite guards in black armor. He wore no crown. He didn't need one. His eyes were sharp, his voice calm. Alaya, he said, you've come far. Alaya didn't reply. You inspired the weak. He continued. You turned tools into believers. I admit, it's impressive. He stepped forward slowly. But you still don't understand. Order must be kept. Without control, there is chaos. Without fear, there is war. He looked around at the crowd. They will turn on you one day. They always do. So I give you a choice. He raised one hand. Kneel now, and I will make you my heir. You will rule beside me, with your beast. With your light, you will have power greater than you ever dreamed. The crowd murmured. Alaya's heart pounded. Everything fell quiet. The pit beast growled softly, but waited. It would not decide for her. This choice was hers alone. She looked at the emperor, then at the people behind her, dirty faces, wide eyes, hearts full of hope. Then she stepped forward. The guards moved, hands on weapons. But Alaya raised one hand. She stopped just a few feet from the emperor, and then she took off the glowing ring from her wrist, the same ring that made her a guardian. She looked at it and dropped it at his feet. It clattered on the marble. I don't want your throne, she said. I don't want your crown. I just want them to never fear again. The emperor's face twitched. He stepped forward in anger, but the pit beast roared. The ground cracked, and behind Alaya, thousands raised their fists, claws, paws, and wings. No weapons, just courage. The emperor looked around. He saw it in their eyes. It was over. He stepped back. He raised his hand in defeat. Let them go, he said to his guards. Let her go. The palace gates closed, not with pride, but shame. The crowd stood frozen for a moment. Then cheers broke out, louder than any thunder. The city echoed with the sound of freedom. The pit beast bent its head toward Alaya. She smiled and placed her hand on its warm skin. Later, as the city repaired, and stories were carved into stone, a young alien child asked her, were you afraid that day? Alaya knelt and looked into the child's eyes. Yes, she said, but I remembered something. What? That monsters are not born, and even the smallest kindness can break the biggest chain. The pit beast let out a low, peaceful sound, and for the first time in a long, long age, the world felt safe.